So what we're going to do is we're here to expose it, let people tell their story, and let everybody in the public see the horrors of the court system in Suffolk County, New York. Hi, I'm Gary Jacobs, and welcome to Long Island Backstory, where we film at Cablevision Studios in Hop Hog, New York. Very honored to have my guest today as Congressman Lee Zeldin. When we, all of us, when we vote for politicians, one of the things I know I worry about is that they say all these things when we're on the campaign trail and all the stuff that we want to hear, but then when they get into government, they sort of get sucked into this political elite, and I guess they feel the pressure of what's going on in there, and they sort of forget where they came from. But we re-elect them anyway because people are so busy with their lives that these same people get re-elected over and over again. When Congressman Zeldin got in, he made a lot of promises. And let me tell you, he's done a lot in the short time that he's been there. The most important thing is he hasn't forgotten where he's came from. He still speaks to his local constituents. He's out there all the time. I know personally as an advocate for family law reform and helping veterans, whenever I've sent somebody to the congressman's office, he's been right on top of it, and he's helped every single one of them do it. Of course, he's on Fox News. He was on Lou Dobbs the other day, and yet still he came back to Long Island to do a public access show on Long Island Backstory.
That was just a warm-up to get to you,
Gary. Oh, okay. Well, that's what I actually put on Facebook. I guess he's just getting ready for the difficult questions, but I really do appreciate everything that you're doing and that you're standing up because it can't be easy when you get in there and you're the voice, of reason and speaking out for what's right over there. So let me ask this first: was being a congressman what you expected?
It's great. It really is a privilege when you go down to Washington and you step into the halls. The Statuary Hall, which was a chamber from 1807 to 1857, you can see the mark on the ground where Abraham Lincoln's desk once was.
Wow.
If you were standing at John Quincy Adams' desk, he never let anyone know that you can hear the opposition. They would stand near where the mark is for Millard Fillmore's desk. They would whisper. But with the acoustics of Statuary Hall, it would sound like someone screaming into your ear. You walk through the Capitol and you think of the history in that building. National Archives, original copies of U.S. Constitution, Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights. It's a privilege to be part of American history. I love our country. I want to be part of making our country better. I'm very optimistic about the future, although it's not going to happen on its own.
Well, that's good to hear that you're optimistic because you're there.
It's not going to happen on its own. We have to work really hard to fix a lot of challenges our country faces. And that's what we fight for every single day at home on local issues and in Washington on important national and international issues.
Now, I get the feeling that when people get in there, when everybody runs, there's such a difference between the two parties. And I sort of get the feeling that when they get into office, there's really one party. But you seem to stay apart and stick with your goals. Is there really a difference between the two parties when you get into office?
Well, it really depends on what the issue is. I mean, there are times that we'll pass a bill where it'll have unanimous support or really close to it. And despite the geographical divide, the party divide, the ideological divide, people of different generations who served there and backgrounds before they got there coming together on a particular bill. And then there are other bills where there might be a whole lot of controversy. You know what? The folks on both sides of that issue, they might have genuine, principled differences that they can't quite hammer out and you can't find an agreement. Sometimes they are taking positions for political expediency, and something may not happen because they want votes. And it's that kind of controversy that people really get frustrated with. I do as well.
Right. So do you think it's about getting reelected? I mean, you get a call from the party leader and says, hey, you got to vote for this. Don't even read it. You're voting for it, or we're not going to support you. Do you have to vote party lines?
No, I think that there are a lot of people who their top three priorities while they're there, reelection. Right. It just dominates their thoughts. There are times to read. There's actually more of an opportunity to read legislation in Congress than what I experienced when I was up in Albany.
Wow.
Some of the stories up in Albany would make your stomach churn, knowing that legislators have to vote on bills this thick, that because of a message of necessity, you vote on it right away, and the bill didn't exist. literally seconds before you're voting on it. Now, what I would do is I'd like to vote no because
you don't know
I didn't get a
what's in
chance I have no idea what's in it.
That's a responsible thing to do.
Yeah, in Congress, there's more of an opportunity. We don't have messages of necessity in Washington. There's an opportunity to ask questions and make sure that you're casting the right vote. And that's something I like to take advantage of with the resources available. I ask a lot of questions, so make sure I'm making the right decision.
Right. Now, something that's really important right now is, of course, the Iran deal, and that's something that really concerns me. And I know a lot of people. Some people disagree with you on your social issues and some other issues, but I say, it comes down to it. If we're going to get wiped off the face of the earth, none of that stuff matters. The most important thing, as you always say, is the safety of our country. I just want to show a clip of you on the floor. And let's show that, and then we'll have you comment on that after.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this resolution. Congress is not on the clock because we haven't received the entire agreement. And for anyone out there who wants to be supportive of this deal, let's think what the President was telling the American public and all of us about how this is a deal that wasn't based on trust, it's built on verification. How do you support a deal based on verification without knowing what the verification is? I'd be happy to yield if anyone wanted to stand up and explain how you support a deal without knowing what the verification is. You can't. That's why we're asking for it. And for those who say that opposing this deal is somehow negative towards America, I took an oath to be an officer of the United States military willing to fight and die in protection of our freedoms and liberties. I love this country. And I took an oath to serve here the members of my district because I love America. So don't tell me that somehow opposing this deal is negative towards America. I oppose this deal because I love my country. I yield back.
Do we know what's in the deal now?
Well, actually, that whole point of looking for the side deals between the IAEA and Iran, basically the verification agreement, still hasn't been presented to Congress. We still haven't received any indication whatsoever that the President has read it or Secretary Kerry has read it. When we had a House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing recently, we had Secretary Kerry in front of us. He admitted at the hearing that he personally had not read the verification agreement. This is how the guy in charge of negotiating the entire deal was spending a lot of time on Capitol Hill selling it, a lot of time on TV and trying to sell to the American public, saying that this is an unprecedented, historic deal, talking about the verification. How do you talk about how great the verification is and you don't get a chance to read it yourself?
Wow, that's great. And what about these side deals that we keep hearing that are being made? Is there anything we can even do about that? I mean, there's side deals.
Yes,
So.
I mean, we need to demand the side deals. We are board members of the IAEA as a nation. The United States of America.
I heard that we weren't
member.
inspectors. To interrupt somebody, I read somewhere that there's not even any Americans on
That's
the IAEA.
true. Well, so the Americans are on the board, the executive board of the IAEA.
Right.
We also provide just under a quarter of their finance of the entire IAEA. But as far as the inspection teams on the ground in Iran, no, Americans are not allowed to be part of the inspection teams. Part of the side deals that have been reported some of the reports have said that Iran is responsible for collecting their own soil samples and turning over, that they inspect their own nuclear site at Parchin. Anything that we have been told so far about what these side deals contain as far as what the verification agreement contains, I think that one of the reasons why it hasn't been made public is because it would turn a whole lot of support against the deal.
Right. I mean, how do you not have at least an American one? I mean, it's got to be an American there. We're trusting our
the president says
safety to other
the
countries?
president says it's a deal that is not built on trust.
That's just unbelievable.
Let me ask,
we're releasing all these billions of dollars, and listen, they said they want to destroy America, they want to destroy Israel. To me, it's only a matter of time before that money does something and causes terrorism and causes people to be killed.
Well, it's guaranteed. I mean, it's an absolute certainty.
I mean, we're on TV. It's going to be on film. You said it before.
It's an absolute certainty. And the leverage that brought the Iranians to the table was the sanctions relief.
Right.
And we're giving them what they want. And we're
up front.
And we're not not even part of the negotiations, Iran overthrowing foreign governments. We saw it in Yemen. Financing terror. Qasem Soleimani has blood on his hands of hundreds of dead U.S. service members from Iraq. Nothing about our American citizens who are being unjustly imprisoned. Iran developing ICBMs, they just, in violation of international law, just tested missiles that are needed to deliver a nuclear warhead. The list goes on, as you mentioned, pledging to wipe Israel off the map, chanting death to America, blowing up mock U.S. warships.
Recently.
During the negotiations and since. And nothing was made part of as a contingent in order to release that money. There are no strings attached. Iran can use it to finance terror and overthrow foreign governments, and they will.
They absolutely will.
And anyone out there who thinks that $150 billion is going to get used, just to improve education and repair roads in Iran, it really has their head in the sand as far as the reality.
And 150 billion is a lot of money in our country. I got to think in that country, it's worth even more than it is in the Middle East. It's worth even more. It's incomprehensible how much.
It's like a third of their GDP. I mean, and you could talk about what do we do now to help our allies in the world, or especially in the region. Israel is a strong ally in that region. You give an ally $1 billion. It's like, yeah, thanks, but you just gave the Iranians $150 billion. So, some of what the discussion now, it doesn't make things right. We shouldn't enter into the deal in the first place. And for those who supported it and they just want to move on the next day, now they're going to be living this down for a year, 3 years, 5, 10 years down the road. You see Hillary Clinton right now, answering for her vote on Iraq from over a decade ago. I mean, this vote to this Iran nuclear deal, this vote that was cast a month ago, is one that is going to be following those supporters for a really long time.
Now, Congressman, let me ask you this. Those people who voted for the deal, when something happens, which we agree something is going to happen, do they have blood on their hands for voting for it?
They need to get kicked out of office.
Okay.
When you choose party loyalty over national security, when you are willing to give Iran $150 billion, and enter into such a horrible deal. I mean, the Obama administration says this is what the deal does, and then the leadership goes on international TV, national TV there, and they refute those terms. They say, no, sanction relief isn't going to be phased in over time. Sanction relief is immediate without suspension. The president says we'll be allowed to inspect military sites. The Iranians say before, during, and after the negotiations, at no time will they ever be able to inspect our military sites. So what kind of a deal did we really get?
And let me ask you, why does Iran need nukes? I mean, there's all fossil fuels there. What's the argument that they even need any nuclear program at all?
They don't, and the original benchmarks set by the president, as far as goals for uranium enrichment for centrifuges, was all towards the extent was going to be what is necessary for peaceful purposes.
Right.
And the fact is, what was agreed to at the end of the day goes far beyond what would be necessary for peaceful purposes, even if you give Iran every benefit of the doubt.
Right. Is it too late to stop it?
No way.
I mean, what can we do? What can be done now to stop it?
Well, for one, we need the Obama administration needs to stop implementing it. I mean,
short of the Obama administration deciding to do it.
A lot. One is you have states that have their own sanctions. You have pension systems. We have a huge pension system just here in New York. So the state level, there's a lot of authority. Congress, in the House, we passed a resolution I authored with Mike Pompeo that says that Congress is not on the clock because we still haven't received the entire agreement, as we discussed earlier. I introduced a bill that passed the House with Peter Roskam that prevents the president from lifting sanctions against Iran. Again, that passed the House as well. The House has standing to get the judiciary involved to stop the implementation of the deal using the logic that I stated, that according to law, we still haven't received the entire agreement. The Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act specifically states in it that the clock does not start until Congress receives the entire agreement, including the side deals. It says it right in the law. The president signed it. And that's how the 60-day review clock gets triggered. The president can't waive sanctions until after that 60-day review clock ends. It's a 60-day review period that hasn't even started yet, in my opinion.
Wow, so that there is some hope that, because I think the news is sort of like starting to move on, and now with all the fighting in Israel, that's sort of become the forefront. But we can't let this stop because
It
we can
is,
still.
no matter how hard others in the media try to move on, it is impossible to move on. The Iranians can't help themselves but to cheat. They will have their name in the news a lot, especially with their newfound wealth.
Right. Now let's talk. Go on to Israel. We're talking about the Middle East. I know you're a strong supporter of Israel as our ally. The president. I mean, right now with all the violence going on in there, maybe I've missed it, but I haven't seen him. I've seen you out on front of the press all the time, talking about how we need to support Israel and stand behind them. You know, all we get is the Obama administration basically blaming it on the Israelis, saying that they're partially responsible for what's going on. For the people people who support Israel, like me, like you, we support Israel. They're an ally. We believe we need them. But a lot of people in this country, we have so many problems on the home front that they say, you know what, Israel's strong, and Bibi's Netanyahu is going to defend himself. Why do we need to get involved? Let Israel go in there and bomb them. Why should a U.S. citizen care about this?
Well, for one, we aren't just staying out of it. I mean, if you look at what the statements have been from the president, from Secretary Kerry, from John Kirby, the State Department spokesperson, it has been shameful. They undercut Bibi Netanyahu. In the international community and weighing legitimacy for Bibi's response, it is the United States. John Kirby said that the Israelis are guilty of terror.
That's crazy.
He should not utter one more word on behalf of America's foreign policy.
I know you called for
He should
his
be
to
replaced
step down.
immediately. And you know what? If Secretary Kerry won't do it, if he won't distance himself from those comments, he needs to step aside as well. So first off, we need to understand in analyzing the situation that it's not that the Obama administration is silent. They try to make it seem like they're equals. Innocent Israelis getting targeted by terror elements that want to wipe Israel off the map. Israel they don't go about their day trying to figure out how to take over the Middle East. They just want to survive.
Right.
And if you want to negotiate a viable two-state solution with the Palestinian Authority, for example, there's no way to have a viable two-state solution when one side is controlled by elements that will not rest until the other side is wiped off the map. Now, that region is a region that it's in the news a lot. There's a lot of challenges we face at home because of instability there. Israel is a beacon of freedom and democracy in that region, and Israelis love the United States. The bond between our two countries, America's foreign policy should be one where we're strengthening our relationships with our friends, and we're treating our enemies as our enemies.
Yeah, that reminds me when you were running, and I was deciding, who I was going to support in your campaign for Congress, and your opponent, people said, well, you know what, he's pro-Israel and he's voted for Israel, and you stood up and said, maybe he did, but that's not enough that he's just voting. He's got to speak up for our ally Israel, and I think that's what you're saying. The president is not out there. He should be out there every day standing up, for Israel and supporting Netanyahu any way that he can.
There was a lot of controversy not too long ago when a military airstrike hit a hospital in the Middle East,
Right.
and it was something that was was in the news, and the Obama administration had to answer for it and take responsibility for what had happened. You didn't see Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu going onto international TV,
That's a good point.
undercutting President Obama. In building trust and strength in an ally in a relationship, you can't undercut your ally in these critical times of need. You stand with them. And by the way, Israel doesn't ask America to fight their battles for them. And as I've said elsewhere, our service members don't go to Israel to drop an ounce of blood on their soil. Israel fights its own battles. So standing up with Israel, it's not about fighting their battles for them. It's about standing strong with them and not criticizing them, saying that they're guilty of terror when they're not.
And that goes back to my previous question. Why should somebody in America care? And I've always said, you know what? You need Israel to be strong, because if our government and Obama is not going to be strong on the Iranians, Israel is not going to let them get too far. Israel will stop it no matter what, in my opinion, what Obama does. He's not going to let his country be destroyed.
Well, it's helpful, though, when, if Hezbollah decided to fire 40,000 rockets from Lebanon, Right now, they keep their arsenal a few miles off the border inside of schools and hospitals and protected religious sites. And let's say Hezbollah overwhelmed the Iron Dome capabilities that Israel has. And Israel reacted, as you know, she will. She has to defend herself.
Right.
In the United Nations, in America, all around the world, with the anti-Semitism, with the growing BDS movement, in that measure of legitimacy as to whether that response is appropriate, it is so greatly unfortunate for the world, especially the free world, not to have Israel's back with that very necessary response, with that inherent right to self-defense, to protect herself if and when that happens, because that's what Hezbollah is shaping up for. That's what Hamas is gearing up for in Gaza. And we see Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda just across the border into Syria. The threat that Israel faces is all around. And it's unfortunate that they can't trust the Obama administration, the president who should be the leader of the free world,
Right.
that they can't trust that he will have a response that has their back in that critical time of need. He doesn't have it now. He probably wouldn't have their backs in the future.
And as we sitting here know that, so do the enemies of Israel. I mean, they're not stupid. They know that, listen, if you're going to do something, this is probably the time to, I would say they're saying, look, this is the time to do it, because we don't know who's going to be the next president. And if we got somebody like you and as president, they're not going to do it because they know there's going to be a reaction.
The evidence is all over the map. I mean, Russia goes into Ukraine. Russia has a submarine right off the coast of Georgia. They put nuclear submarines right off the Pacific coast. A Chinese naval fleet 12 miles off the Alaskan coast while the president is there. North Korea turns a switch at a nuclear reactor 2 weeks ago and threatens the United States as they do it. If you look all over the map, I mean, Russia goes into Syria and targeting rebels. That President Obama's foreign policy for Syria is, that those rebels, that moderate Syrian army, that is how you fight ISIS. That's who we should be spending money and effort training. The Russians are now teaming with Assad to target them. All over the map, there's all this evidence. And listen, there is a huge range between silence and war. So when we say we can't be silent, that doesn't mean we want war. I say we can't be silent because that is how you prevent war.
Right.
And there are tens of thousands of options between silence and war.
Speaking about Syria, what do we do with these Syrian refugees? Do we let any of them come to our country? And if not, what happens to them?
Well, listen, as far as the cap here in the U.S., I've been very critical. The Obama administration has proposed 200,000 Syrian refugees. It's unfortunate what is going on in that region. Many countries, specifically those closest to Syria, are already starting to see the effects of having a policy in place that allows a more porous border for these refugees to come in. I have a lot of concern as to how these individuals are going to be vetted to make sure that we're not letting anyone through who poses a threat to our own national security. As far as what Syria, the Syria situation on the ground today, I'm someone who advocates for having the ability for Syrians in Syria to be able to stay in their country and have more safety than they have right now.
Makes a lot more sense than bringing them here. Because even if 1% are terror, I mean, I'm sure a lot of them are good people, who are just fleeing violence. But even if 0.5% of 200,000 are terrorists, we don't want to bring them into our country.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the other thing too is, Americans have a lot of compassion. When we look around the world and we see an innocent woman, a child suffering from gang violence, from poverty, oppression, when we see what might be going on in some country in Central America or Syria, we have this natural inclination to want to be helpful.
Right.
But at the same time, we also understand that we have a lot of challenges here at home. We have gang violence in the United States.
Right.
We have oppression and poverty right here. So how do we go out and solve the world's problems with regards to those particular issues? How do we have the bandwidth to deal with them and ignore those same challenges right here at home? We can't.
Let me, because I have a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk about, but one of the things, you're a big supporter of the Second Amendment. Do you think that now, with all this violence that's going on in the world, that is it more important? I mean, with Muslim extremists coming in, is it more important now that we have guns? And if you believe so, what do we do to stop all this violence that we see on the news every day of mass shootings? What can be done to stop it while still protecting our rights?
It is absolutely tragic every time we see one of these mass incidents. We think of that parent that has to bury their son or daughter under any circumstances, whether it's an act of violence or it's sickness. It's something that no parent should ever have to go through. And then I guess to the last point about the compassion that Americans have towards challenges elsewhere, and that we share that same compassion when we think about challenges here at home. We have to make sure that anything that's proposed is sensible, that it's constitutional, that is proportionate, doesn't have unintended consequences in the wrong direction. In Aurora, that movie theater killer went past 2 movie theaters to get to the gun-free movie theater. In Chattanooga, Tennessee, that was a gun-free zone, and we had service members at a recruiting station unable to defend themselves. There is so many examples of how a mass incident was stopped because someone who was well-trained reacted appropriately and responsibly and ended a situation. So, proposals that are presented, it's important for people to put out solutions. Right now, we see it specifically with, so many of these people, the mass incidents, have a lot of mental health issues. So, pursuing solutions are important. We just have to make sure they make sense, they're constitutional, and they don't have unintended consequences in a way that make an idea more harmful than actually helpful.
Not that I'm suggesting it, but even if you went and took everybody's guns away today, we have a lot of people who want to kill us. They make it easy for them, just on a national level.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure that if we adopted a strategy that you might see in another country where you just go try to take everyone's guns,
it's not happening.
I'll tell you some of the people who would be first to abide are law-abiding citizens.
Right.
So when we have certain programs, it's important to keep in mind what the actual consequences are, the result is, because a utopian society where all guns are replaced with tasers, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
So let's talk about what we can do to fix the problem.
That's right.
So, Lee, thank you very much, Congressman, for being on the show. Keep up the good work. Keep standing up for what's right and protecting our country. We need more people like you there.
Thank you.
And if you'd like more information, you can go to the Congressman's website. He has a lot of information. We didn't talk about some of the bills that he's passed, which for a freshman is pretty unusual, and it shows that we're going to see a lot more from the Congressman. I'm Gary Jacobs, and thank you for joining us at Long Island Backstory. Please remember to like us on Facebook.